my name is Silvi Costa, and I'm a social media marketing intern at Gaëtane. Thank you very much once again for tuning in to our podcast today. I'm here joined by Gaëtane Lenain. Did I pronounce that right?
Gaëtane Lenain.
Gaëtane Lenain. I'm trying my French accent there.
Yeah.
Originally a researcher in astrophysics, Gaëtane turned after a few years to a career in the service of people and organizations by taking on roles in communication, recruitment, and sales. And since 2010, Gaëtane has coached leaders and managers of major international groups and startups in aligning their vision, values, and strategy and enabled them to see far beyond their limits. And she's also the current president of ICF Belgium. So, hi Gaëtane, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Silvio, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure to have you here. So now, Gaëtane, at Gaëtane, we had a survey recently, and we asked people about their experience during the pandemic. And one thing that we saw was that a lot of people were struggling with communicating through these online tools. And that got us thinking about conflicts, because, of course, when there is miscommunication, usually conflicts follow. And today, I would like to talk to you about conflict management and specifically about what individuals themselves can do about it. And then I have a few questions here written out, and I wanted to start by asking you about what's, let's say, the main mechanism behind conflicts. So I guess what I'm hinting at here is, why do conflicts occur?
And that's a very good question. Why do we have conflict? Why do conflict occur? Basically, conflict are, I would say very simply, conflicts are an escalation of disagreements, and sometimes of miscommunication. Those disagreements can come out of miscommunication, or just become big, or they can just come from a different point of views. And when I would say when you don't listen to each other's point of view in a productive way, in a positive manner, the communication can escalate into conflict and become conflicts.
I see. Right. So in a sense, it's taking a normal process in that sense, so disagreement, and kind of taking it to the extreme, and that's how we get to conflicts.
Yes, that's the way it could happen. It can also happen, conflict can also happen because not only through misunderstandings or miscommunication or different point of views, but also when people have different objectives, conflicting objectives, that can also go into conflicts. If your objective is not aligned with the other person's objective, and they exclude each other, you might also get into conflicts.
I see. Yeah, I'm trying to understand this better because I hear a lot around me that some people are actually very afraid of conflicts, and they, of course, wouldn't like them to happen at all. But what I'm kind of getting here a bit from you is that conflicts have, let's say, a natural basis, and that it's kind of natural for them to appear. And this gets me thinking: are conflicts always bad in that sense?
Certainly not. A conflict would be bad, or yeah, if that's the right word. A conflict can be bad if you are blocked in it. If you start fighting each other, and nothing good's come out of it. But conflicts can also be very enriching as well. Even the disagreements that escalate into conflict, into shouting at each other, or being very angry at each other, even those can be also very productive as soon as you calm down and as soon as you can find common ground again, and you actually try to resolve it. So as soon as each party is actually ready to talk and listen to each other.
Right, right. I see. So in the end, it's actually not about the conflict itself, but rather how you manage it. Would you put it this way?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't manage conflict, if you don't manage the way you talk to each other, the way you interact with each other, and you stay firm on your point of view, um, then it's unproductive. It can be just blocking. While when you manage yourself, you manage the you can also manage the situation. You can manage the way you interact with each other, and you can make sure that everybody is in the mindset of what are we going to do with it, what are we going to how are we going to solve this.
I see. Yeah, I heard very interesting things in what you just said in the last phrase, and one of them was this blockers. So are there some things that you see, some themes, let's say, in the situations that you coach? Are there some themes that you see recurring, some sort of blockers or some things that lead to these harmful
Mm.
conflicts?
Yeah, blockers. I can also call them triggers. What triggers you to get in your camp and fight for your camp? Your camp is yourself, your ideas, your opinions. Um, and that comes basically from the fact that we are all sensitive to certain threats. I'm not going to go deep into the details of neuroscience, but we are, as human, we are wired to look out for threats all the time. We are constantly scanning our environment to find threats so that we can respond to them. And a disagreement in opinion can be perceived as a threat, and we are reacting automatically to a threat by either protecting ourselves by getting ready to fight or getting ready to run. Yeah, the fight or flight response. That's a response that is very popular that people have probably already heard of. So basically, a disagreement in opinion can send you into automatic reaction, fighting or running. But it's not a state of mind where it's a state of mind where you are not channeling the best part of your brain to solve a conflict. It's a situation where you react in an automatic mode, and it may not be the most appropriate. So we were talking about triggers. What can trigger you to go into that sort of situation? There is a model that is the scarf model by David Rocks. And basically, whenever the SCARF model, the SCARF is an acronym for different situation that can different triggers and that can get you into this. And the acronym SCARF stands for S is for status, C is for certainty, A is for autonomy, R is for relatedness, and F is for fairness. So whenever we feel threatened in one of these elements, status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, or fairness, we might get into this automatic mode. So maybe I can give you an example. If we're talking about status, and so if you're working with a team, with your team, you might be the team leader, and you are in a team meeting, and you express your opinion about how this particular project should be carried on. if someone else in the team disagrees with you, and if that person happens to be someone who could compete with you to get the title of team leader, you could feel threatened. Your status is being threatened by this particular person, and when they disagree with you, they also automatically trigger that response of that threat, and then your response.
Right.
The same goes for certainty. We do need a certain level of certainty in our lives, and please bear in mind that some of us are more sensitive to status, others more to certainty, others to autonomy, others to relatedness, and some others to fairness. But to some sort of degree, we are all sensitive to all of these. Some people need a lot of freedom, and they feel less threatened when it's about certainty. They can live in an uncertain world, and others need more certainty to feel good. So yeah, these are those triggers, and I can give you the link to a very good article that goes into the details of those.
Yeah,
of
sure.
this model.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think a lot of people are gonna, myself included, are gonna find it really useful. So we're gonna put it in the description of the podcast. Perfect. Yeah, I see. Okay, so basically, what I get from this is that we are kind of wired in that sense to be attentive to these factors. So status, some of them are
Certainty,
status,
yes.
certainty,
Autonomy,
relatedness,
relatedness, fairness.
fairness.
Relatedness is about feeling part of the group, being able to relate to each other and to feel part of the group. I think that the other words are pretty much self-explaining, but I thought maybe relatedness needs a little bit of an explanation. So yes,
Right.
we might get triggered in one of these elements. And the key individually to come back to conflict, when you feel that you are in a conflictual situation, you might want to take a step back. When you feel that you are overreacting, that you're getting angry, that you're getting a strong emotion, you can take a step back to try and ask yourselves, what's put me in that state? What was the trigger? If you know all these elements, you can think back of the situation and realize that you are reacting because you are feeling a bit insecure about your status. The example of the team leader, for example. And if that's the case, if you have more awareness of why you reacted that way, it might be very founded, it might be very real, but on the other hand, it might also be not that hard. And you can therefore, because you know what happened, because you know why you are reacting to that, you might try and find other ways to talk to that person. Maybe clear out a misunderstanding and get back to the problem at hand.
Right. So in a sense, a moment of self-reflection. So what you said, taking a step back and kind of reflecting on your emotions and on what happened, basically, that's one way to basically deal with it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Also, as a person, I would say, if you don't have to wait to be in such a situation to start dealing with that. If you when you are very relaxed, and if you are interested in managing better your emotions, you might think for yourself, okay, so what am I sensitive to precisely? Am I okay with some uncertainty? Is it important to me, my title, how people are perceiving me? Is it important to me whether everything is fair, or is it important to me to feel accepted in in a group? Is it important to me to be able to plan out my day and to have lots of autonomy? So figure out, you take some time of reflection for yourself to know what are you sensitive for, and that will help you in the future when you feel triggered to more quickly know why you were triggered. You can also, over time, every time you get triggered into a strong emotion, you can think about it and identify what happened to you, why you felt like that, and with time you can see patterns coming back. And the more you know yourself, the more you know to what you are going to react strongly when the occasion arises. When the trigger is there, you can see the trigger. You can sometimes even see it before it happens. You can expect it, and because of this anticipation, you might be able to take a deep breath and choose to react differently, because you know how you're going to react, and you know whether it's a good thing. Sometimes reacting strongly gets you what you needed. I'm not saying that it's bad. You can, sometimes those strong reactions are good as well. But if you know that it's not going to be productive, that it's not going to be to help you further in your project, or to help the team further in the project, if you want to change that, you are able to change that.
I see. Yeah, I really like this idea. I kind of see it almost as on a timeline in a sense. So you have the sort of prevention part, maybe we could call it that way, in which you before reflect, okay, what are my triggers? And then when the actual situation happens and a conflict pops up, you kind of try to take a step back there and reflect in that moment. And also after that, after you realize you had a conflict, you can reflect then as well. So I really like this. I feel like it's really, really practical. And I could see, for instance, thinking of my own examples, I can see how I could apply all these things myself.
And so that's when you work on yourself. If you are working in a team where there's a lot of conflict and maybe not productive conflict, you can also start observing your colleagues and see what are they reacting to. And if you don't want to trigger them, then you can better choose your words. If you know that this person needs a lot of certainty, or that person needs a lot of autonomy, you can choose your word better so that you're not triggering a threat response in them.
Right, yeah. So being in that sense a bit more acknowledging of the others, that if someone is threatened by something, you kind of acknowledge that and say, hey, maybe this is an example, say like, hey, I don't mean to steal the show from you or anything, but I think that blah blah blah.
Yeah, for example, if you have some advice, some ideas that you think, if this other person, if they take the ideas into account, that could be useful, you can go to them and you can share with them. And as you said, in a very humble manner, saying, well, it's not my expertise. You keep humble. It's not my expertise. I got those ideas. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they could help you. If you bring them this way, it's a non-threatening way. And so you have a better chance of having a good response to that.
Right. Yeah, that is a very interesting point. Yeah, so like, of course, the first part is managing your own emotions, but then also basically paying attention to others and then being mindful of what you do that triggers them, and of course minimizing that.
Yeah. So for the last 20 minutes, actually, we've been talking about emotional intelligence. This is what it is. Emotional intelligence is really knowing yourself, knowing how and when you react, what kind of real emotions are triggered by different situations in yourself. And emotional intelligence can also help you lead teams better, interact with other people better. So it's and it's a skill that can be developed. It's a skill that is very, very important these days, and it's not new. It's not new as a concept. It's been there for quite a while. But what we can observe is that people with the right technical skills, the right competencies on the job, and high emotional intelligence, these are the people who are evolving into leadership position.
Right. So yes, it's not enough that you're really good at your job, for example, because then when you have to interact with people, you need all this emotional intelligence because, of course, when you interact with others, emotions come in the way because we're humans after all.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. Right. I remember that in the beginning you also mentioned something about mindsets when it comes to conflict management, and I was wondering, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, being in the right mindset to better deal with conflict. That's also a very important point. And when you have different parties together, if you are, let's say, if you are in the mindset of I want to win, I want my ideas to win. If you are in the I mindset instead of the we mindset, then and the other person in front of you is in the same kind of mindset, then you're going to fight each other. The conflict is between you two, between the two person or the two parties or the two teams sometimes. That can be between two teams. While you can also change your mindset and win over the other person to together attack the problem instead of attacking each other. Try to attack the problem. Fight together against the circumstances, the difficulties, the problem. Because if you are in this energy of fighting, maybe you can use this fighting energy to get things done. This energy is not bad in itself. You can use it, and fighting is is a lot of action, of course. So why not use it? But then you want to use it together and to focus this energy on solving the problem. And how you can do that is finding common grounds with the other person. So get back to what you have in common. Ask yourself, why are we so passionate about it? If we are fighting against each other, it's because we are passionate about it, right? It's because we want this product, this service to work. Yes, right? We want to get something out of it. So so what is it, and what's in common between the two parties? And start looking at what's in common. That you will create more bonds between you and the other person, the other team. And then you can look at the problem again and start solving it based on what you want to achieve together. So this is really how you could change from the I mindset to the we mindset.
I think that's really valuable. I can also recognize sometimes when I had group projects, for example, and we, of course, we had some fights over some topic. It actually didn't cross my mind that, oh wait, this isn't that it's my idea against your idea, but it's more about the fact that we are so passionate about this and that we want it to succeed so bad that we invest a lot in it. So that's a really useful thing, I think.
And even though it might sound simplistic or naive to say so, just saying out loud with the other parties, we are passionate about it, we want it to work. As I said, it might sound simplistic, but that already brings the level of energy back to something that is productive instead of something that is destructive. If you go to the extreme, conflict become destructive. I think I'm going back to what we said earlier at the beginning. Is conflict bad? No, conflict can be productive. If it goes to the extreme, it can be destructive. And maybe you're going to destroy the competition. Why not?
Yeah.
That in itself being destructive might not be that bad. Um, but uh, but if you're going to destroy each other, that's yeah.
There might be a problem there.
I don't agree with that. It's not in my values.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. No. Exactly. And then also going back to what you said earlier about those triggers. Exactly. If you acknowledge the other person and say, "Hey, it's not about I'm not going against your idea or anything. We actually have this common ground here. I actually want to succeed, and I'm only saying these things because I want to make sure that we both achieve what we both want." Hmm. Yeah. And this kind of reminds me. Because what you said that indeed maybe for some people it might sound naive, but I really think that it's a very powerful thing. Also, I know of a study in which they analyzed speeches from U.S. presidents, from U.S. candidates for presidency, and they actually saw that the candidates who use "we" in their speeches more, those were the ones that tended to win, which I think kind of reflects what you've been saying so far. So
Yeah, and the we is talking to the part of us that is sensitive to relatedness.
right.
Because this model I talked about, it's actually what we are sensitive to in terms of threats, but also in terms of the vocabulary that you want to use to bring people together. So you can look at it that way as well.
Right, right. Yeah, so you can basically turn it the other way around in that sense.
Mm. And now, if we are talking about organizations and what they do, how they manage conflict, and do they have specific procedures to manage conflict? In my experience, not many organizations, not many companies have actually a procedure, a process to manage conflict. But if you want to know more about how it's, and although conflict arises everywhere, so there are patterns, there are ways that we automatically deal with conflict. So you can, and there are different ways to deal with conflict. There's a model that is called the Thomas Gilman mode instrument to manage conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, there are five different. It's also about mindset. Five different mindsets in which you can be to deal with conflict. You can be in the competing mindset, the collaborating mindset, the avoiding. You can be avoiding conflict at all cost. You can be also accommodating. And in the middle of all of this, you also have the compromising mindset. So that's also very so. It's also a very interesting model to look at if at some point you have to deal with disagreements and conflict. Because we can do whatever we want to avoid conflict, to prevent it, to be more productive and positive in the first place. Conflict will still arise. So at some point, what do you do with that? You can also use that model, and we will publish in the comments a link to a small introduction to this model if you want.
Absolutely, yeah. It sounds really interesting. Yeah, exactly. So basically, one more tool that that people can use to kind of guide them through making the best out of conflicts. Right. Yeah. So it seems like we personally have a big contribution to conflicts, and that just by managing our own emotions, we can actually, we can basically help a lot in basically deciding the outcome in that sense. But now I was wondering about the external factors that act on conflicts, and particularly I was thinking about the current situation with the pandemic. How do you think that this changed the nature of conflicts, given that now we mostly interact online and that sort of thing?
How does online interaction? How did online interaction change the conflict situation, the way we deal with conflict? You said it in the beginning that the survey shows that maybe more conflicts are arising because of more of miscommunication due to the fact that we are online. So that's one way. Another way I would say that really depends on every time on how you manage it. But I can imagine that being online because you don't feel safe enough to. Or you don't feel that you have the time to go into to go into it. Maybe in a lot of situations, people decide not to go deeper into the topic and just stop sharing information. And in that case, you go into it's not a full out conflict. It's more like a cold war. You know,
Right,
you
right.
build a wall, but it's not good either, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So if the parties withdraw and don't work together or decide not to talk together anymore, that is one way how conflict might have been impacted by the online situation. Another way is because if you don't have enough interactions with the other people, the informal interactions, the moments where you share something about yourself, like my daughter is sick. Oh, that's too bad. I feel for you. That's something that you would say around the corner in the office. That's
right.
not something that is happening uh,
In the
online.
meeting room. Oh,
But that means that we have less, in this case, we have less bonds with each other. And so we might have less empathy. And because we have less empathy, conflicts might escalate faster. Um, or maybe you have the opposite effect of some people are so effective and so much more to the point when they talk, when they exchange in the meetings, that it escalates faster. These are the ways that the online, the COVID situations and the remote working current situation is impacting our conflicts.
yeah.
And what can you do about it? First of all, and it's again the same thing, it's acknowledging that. And how you do that, you at some point as a team, you might decide to take a moment and just when I say take a moment, take an hour to talk with each other about how you feel generally, but also just also to say that because of the situation, it's harder to communicate with each other, and because it's harder to communicate or to feel close to each other, there's a risk that we might have more conflict or more cold wars. And we don't want that. So how can we make sure that we stay together? And from there you can have a discussion of what you can do to maintain those links between each other, what you can do when you feel that there might be a disagreement and we never have the time to clarify it. If you have clear agreements up front saying, okay, when anyone in the team feels that we are talking about different things and that we are not on the same, we don't have the same point of views, or we are not synchronized anymore, feel free to say so. How can you say so? So make clear agreements. Should you write an email? Should you call this one and that person? So make clear practical agreements how you want to behave, how you want everyone in the team to behave when they feel that something's wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is so valuable because I started an internship recently, and then I realized that, for example, it was a big transition. And at university, I knew all the procedures, so I knew what do I need to do when exactly when there's something that I don't like. I knew who to write an email to and all that. But then during the internship, of course, I had to learn all these things, and I was fortunate that the people there kind of explained all these things to me. But I can really imagine how in companies right now, I don't know, let's say the procedure was that when there's a conflict at a company, you just go to your boss, you just knock at the door and say, hey, there's this thing that bothers me. But now it's almost as if everyone started a new job in a sense. And a lot of rules, a lot of procedures don't work anymore. And I think it's really valuable what you just pointed out, that, hey, the rules have changed and we need to draw attention to them and redefine them in that sense.
Yeah. And if we want to make a link to what we were talking earlier today, the SCARF model, the absence of the unclarity of the absence of processes, of procedures, that speaks to our sense of certainty.
Right.
I have no certainty of what's going to happen, or how can I, knowing that you can find those procedures, knowing that you know what to do in case this or that happens, that's certainty.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really...
And the lack of it, that adds extra stress on people.
Right, exactly. And that's so deep within us that it stirs really strong reactions. And then of course it's smart to to take preventive measures, of course.
So it doesn't, and when you mention procedures, and I also mentioned how do we manage conflict, how do we have a procedure, basically that sometimes when we think about that, it sounds like a document 10 pages long. And that's not what we mean by it. It's I prefer to use the words of establishing clear agreements. What do we do if? What do we do when this and that happens? It doesn't have to be very complicated. Just knowing to who you should go to who you can go to talk, and a few practical steps. That's already enough to reassure you that when something more difficult is coming, then you can deal with it.
Right. Yeah. Indeed, that's a really good point. Exactly, because when we mention procedures, it sounds as if you have a whole department dedicating to building those, but indeed, it's actually the small things that we already in the office knew, but now because of Corona, we don't have anymore. True. Right. Yeah, I feel like we've heard so many interesting things. So we had the models. We learned about basically our responsibility as individuals. Then we also looked a bit at how to look at others and try to understand what their triggers are. And then now talking about how Corona changed all these dynamics. It's been a really interesting discussion, I feel like, and I definitely took a lot out of it.
Thank you, Silvio. I think your questions are very insightful too.
Thanks. I'm wondering, I would like to wrap it up here. And I'm wondering, where can people find more about you or get in touch with you?
So you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Type in my name. I know it's not the easiest name to spell, but I think it's going to be printed in under the podcast.
Yes.
So my name is Gaëtane Lenain. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find also my website, which is glcoaching.be.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And thank you everyone for listening, and we're going to catch you in our next podcast. Have a nice day. Hey, Sylvie here. Thanks again for tuning in. If you want to listen to more podcasts like these, then don't forget to follow us on our social media. On Facebook at Cool Content Coach and LinkedIn at Cool Content AB. We have a lot of articles there with tips and tricks that will help you make the most out of these dynamic times. Lastly, check our website, gulcontent.com. There you can find a lot of coaching programs, which you can join to get in contact with some of Sweden's finest coaches. Thank you very much for listening, and we hope to catch you in our next podcast. Bye for now.